Father. It's great. Now I'm just going to introduce our next speaker to you. We've actually two speakers going to join together, but I'll first of all introduce Emer. Emer Gallagher is from Donegal and she's now living and working in Dublin. She's an active legionary in the parish of St. Peter's Church in Fisborough. Emer is also a member of the PPC Committee of the Legion of Mary, Perganatio Pro Christo, and she organises teams to spend time in parishes abroad and to do some Legion work abroad. That's at the invitation, of course, of the parish priests, usually in the UK or in an intense week of evangelisation. Emer, you're very welcome, and Emer's a very inspiring young legionary, and thanks for joining us tonight, Emer. So Lauren will just introduce Emmanuel Burke, who's also going to speak with Emer.
Emer is joined in a little conversation on the handbook by Emmanuel Burke, who's also a legionary. He's from Dublin. He grew up in a large family. His mother, I'm told, was also a member of the Legion of Mary, and he's now principal of a boys' national school in Dublin 7. He's president of Our Lady Queen of Mercy Presidium in the Morning Star Hostel, which is a hostel for homeless men, which was founded by Frank Duff in 1929. And the Presidium members of Emmanuel's Presidium, they do work on a voluntary basis in the hostel, and they also do regular street contact. And Emmanuel wanted to particularly say, to let everyone know, that they meet every Wednesday evening in the hostel. They're always looking for new members to join them in their very exciting Legion work that they do. So you're very welcome, Emmanuel and Emer. And Emmanuel and Emer are just going to discuss a little section from the Legion of Mary Handbook, which was written by Frank Duff, entitled Mary, Our Mother.
Thanks very much, Lorraine and Brona. We're always looking for members as well. In
Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah. So just to say, we're just going to turn now to the writings of Frank Duff, and Veronica mentioned there about handbook study, and it was a wonderful talk. And just to say that Frank Duff obviously founded the Legion of Mary, and we're just going to find out what he's saying about Mary, our mother. Just remembering that this man met 5 or 6 popes, whose organisation has 10 million members, including active and auxiliary. And next year we'll celebrate 100 years. So the Legion is going for 100 years now, which is amazing. And just to say, before I joined the Legion of Mary, I had very limited knowledge of the importance of Our Lady's role in our salvation, you know. And it was through my Legion membership, through the writings of Frank Duff, and through the spiritual direction from the wonderful priest that we have at my Legion meeting, that I found out what Our Lady's role was, and it's been wonderful. So now we're just going to turn to these words, and we'll see what they can they speak to your soul. So I'll just hand you over to Emmanuel now.
Emer, thank you so much, and thank you, Lauren and Brona, for your lovely introduction. And I want to compliment. It was lovely to hear Father Pat. That accent, Father Pat, it's a bit like a precious diamond. They say that about the Dublin accent, and it doesn't take much to polish it. And I don't know if anybody else noticed, but I feel Veronica has acquired a little bit of a Dublin lilt.
Yeah.
So, well done, Veronica. That's another gift. But listen, guys, we're gonna so a little legionary activity right now. Let's just see. I know there's a lot of legionaries in the room, and we're going to give them 10 seconds to reach for their handbook. Okay, I'm sure they have it ready to rock and roll. So, because we're going to open up here, so page 21. I have it on a screen share for those of you who maybe don't have your handbook handy. But I'm just going to take some time now. I'm going to read this for you. So just bear with me, please. And I hope everybody's audio is okay. I know Zoom can be great, but when it's not working out, it can be quite demanding. So do bear with us. So here we go. Mary, our mother. But if we claim the inheritance of children, there must be esteem for the motherhood through which it comes. A third aspect of Legion devotion to Mary is a special honouring of her as our real mother, which in very fact she is. Mary became the mother of Christ and our mother when to the angel's salutation she pronounced her meek assent. Here I am, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word. That motherhood of hers was proclaimed at the moment when it reached its complete expansion. That is, when redemption was consummated. Amid the sorrows of Calvary, Jesus said to her from the cross, "Woman, here is your son." And to St. John, "Here is your mother." Through St. John, these words were addressed to all the elect. Fully cooperating by her consent and sorrows in the spiritual birth of mankind, Mary became, in the fullest and most perfect sense, our mother. Truly her children, we must behave as such, and indeed as very little children, dependent utterly upon her. We must look to her to feed us, to guide us, to teach us, to cure our ailments, to console us in our griefs, to counsel us in our doubts, to recall us when we wander, so that wholly confided to her care, we may grow to the resemblance of our elder brother, Jesus, and share his mission of combating sin and conquering it. So it's like everything from the handbook, and it was great actually to hear Veronica's enthusiasm. You know, she really has there's a powerful enthusiasm there, not just for legionaries. She wants all Catholics should be familiar with this work. So great to hear that, Veronica. I'm just going to hand it over now to Emer, because I know Emer, you might have a comment you might like to share with us on that section.
Yeah, so I've just studied a little bit just beforehand, but so I'm just going to turn to the section where the quotes are from St. Luke and St. John. And I think what Frank Duff is trying to tell us is that everything depended on Mary's yes to God at the Annunciation, and Father Deegan spoke about that. And something to think is, where would we be if Mary hadn't answered yes? You know, and it often strikes me too that after the angel Gabriel left her, she was completely alone again. And did she worry about what her family would think, about what Joseph would think? No, she prayed and trusted everything to God. And she did that her whole life. And from a human perspective, if you look at Our Lady's life, you'd say that it really didn't go according to plan, you know, that, you know, Jesus was born in a stable. The Savior of the world was born in a stable. And then the Holy Family had to flee Herod, and Jesus was lost in the temple. And in the end, then her beautiful son suffered and died on the cross. Yet her faith was unshakable. And we're asked to imitate her faith, and regardless of our circumstances. And she will help us. Give everything to our Mother Mary, and she will bring it to her son Jesus. And just there, the second quote from St. John too, you know, that when he gives Our Lady to us as our mother, and sometimes I think of the road to Calvary, and Mary suffered so much, and sometimes I think we pass by that point, but she suffered so much. And I've been reading other pieces on Frank Duff, and in another writing he said that Mary's perfection enhanced the ordeal of Calvary. Because she was immaculately conceived, she was sensitive beyond ordinary nature to sin. And her suffering contained every possible ingredient. She walked with Jesus carrying his cross, partaking in his suffering. She stood at the foot of the cross and watched on silently. She endured the death of her innocent son because it was God's will, and it was necessary to save her other children, you and I. She really is truly our mother. I think that's a lovely section. I don't know, Emmanuel, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, thank you, Emer. That's a lovely reflection you just added to there. Do you know what, Emer? It occurred to me, something special occurred to me in the school on Friday, because we've been thinking about this section this last week. So I was thinking about motherhood, and then I had this wonderful experience in the school on Friday. I'd just like to share with people. So one of our teachers, herself and her husband, they recently welcomed their first baby boy into the world, and a beautiful baby. And she's a wonderful teacher, very dedicated to the school, and she just wanted to drop in because so many staff had sent lovely messages, and there were gifts in the school for her. So I got to witness some of the staff with this teacher and this baby. And I just, I've learned as a man working in a kind of I suppose a female dominated profession to try and listen more. I kind of feel that's kind of been a useful skill, because I feel like in school, I always tell the boys, we got to show up to learn. And I feel I've got so much to learn. But I learned something really beautiful when I saw, because we did all the cooing around the baby. But then I could see the two senior members of staff, who are both mothers themselves, really talk to the woman. They knew she's a new mother. And they were talking about, how do you sleep now? And she said something really interesting. She says, I just can't sleep properly. Even if my husband is asleep and the baby's asleep, I just can't sleep. And both of them said it. They said, it's going to always be like that. She said, you're always going to have that sense of connection and kind of concern for your child. And it was very beautiful because, I suppose, like, maybe as men, we don't always see that. We'll never have that, that role of mother is so sacred, it's so special. But just to see that this woman now on her journey, this was like a special kind of, she'd entered this role of mother herself and the transformation. And it was powerful to see the two other, her colleagues, the way they kind of, almost like kind of formed a circle for her, well, listen, we've done it and we know what it's like. And they gave that young woman great comfort. But it was very beautiful to see. And then it struck me in our own relationship with Mary, our mother, and look, this is Frank Duff, so insistent here, that, she becomes our real mother, that we, that we have this connection, and how she must worry. And I always think, I'm not sure many people have been to Medjugorje, but the messages, the way she speaks, she really implores us, dear little children, she really is, this mother of care for her children. So that's what struck me, Emer. Emer, was there anything else you wanted to bring in there, Emer?
Yeah, that was lovely, Emmanuel. My mother could connect with that. I don't think she slept since we were all born, but just to take you down to the section there about being utterly dependent. I love this section, being utterly dependent upon her. And like, Our Lady just wants us to run to her and to give her everything so that she can feed us and guide us and teach us, console us, counsel us, and recall us when we wander. And she wants these things for all her children. And we're asked to lead as many people as possible to her so that they too can be utterly dependent upon her. She wants us so that through her we can get close to her son, Jesus, our ultimate end. And if we lead other souls to her, we ourselves become closer to her and her son. We must imitate her strength. And when I think of her at the foot of the cross, you always hear she's standing at the foot of the cross. You could imagine that she might have crumbled and died herself at the foot of the cross, but no, her strength was she was still standing, and we should imitate that strength, and we must imitate her courage and call it up in ourselves and help bring souls to Jesus through her. And our help is a real help, because here on earth, if we allow ourselves to be, we can be the voice and hands of Our Lady. So I think that's what Frank Duff was saying, is to keep close to Mary, our mother, and keep doing her work and to guide other people to her. So I really like that section. It's kind of consoling. I don't know, Emmanuel, do you find it consoling or not? But
yeah, no, I find, it's funny, I'd say in a lot of presidiums, I'd say handbook discussion can be it can be a challenge. I think we're all familiar with that, and to make sure we give it due attention. But, everybody says the same, but once we do give it time, how rich it is, and there's something about the writings of Frank Duff. I think we almost have to, really kind of push ourselves to engage with it, because this was a book, Frank was inspired by the Holy Spirit. So we're kind of have to really kind of make an effort. And every time we do, it's just full of richness, Well, I suppose, Emer, just for me, just to kind of wrap it up, what strikes me, in the last paragraph there, to feed us, to guide us, to teach us, to cure our ailments, to console us in our griefs. Again, I keep thinking about, our school and the work we do. And like I said, it's an all-boys school. And we've got some, some guys, they're kind of like little tough hombres. There's a few Lee Marvins in there, a few Charlie Bronsons. Last year we had, in the junior yard, I don't know, I thought they were filming a new episode of Peaky Blinders. You know, fierce stuff. But needless to say, you know, the first aid station would be fairly overrun at times. But you knew a Band-Aid, an ice pack wasn't going to cut it for some of them. They needed their mum. And I got to tell you, it is extraordinary to see some of the really tough little guys. And then once you make the phone call, you say, listen, would you like to talk to your mum? And that's it. You know, they completely melt like butter on toast. It's really, really extraordinary, because as soon as they hear their mum's voice, that's what they need. You know, that's actually the consolation they need. It's really powerful. And it struck me as well, that terrible tragedy in America, that poor man whose life was taken by the police, you know, really a needless tragedy. But he was calling for his mum, you know. I really, it's so emotional to think of that. And I've learned from a lot of reading, you know, of, say, soldiers' experiences on the battlefield, how the common call for injured soldiers is actually to call for their mum. That in those horrible moments, that's who they call for. It's like this sacred relationship, you know, and we can see it in childhood formation, you know, even like in the toughest of children, that they need their mum, and it's only their mum who can actually give them ease, who can give them peace. You know, it's really, really extraordinary. So I feel, you know, Frank Duff, I mean, I can't say what a role model for all of us. What an extraordinary extraordinary man. And I just think, you know, as we come into the centenary, you know, I think we could all take some of Veronica's enthusiasm. I think we could all kind of, especially as legionaries here, any legionaries in the room, I think we can all kind of make an extra pitch to connect with the handbook. That would be, that's kind of, you know, because this is just one small section, and it's so rich, you know, we just managed to share some comments with you. But I think it will be a great commitment as the Legion, as we approach the centenary, to make that. And really, I suppose it's great now, we'll hopefully have our Presidium meetings back on track. It'll be great now to, you know, to get into our handbook discussions with renewed vigor and enthusiasm. So, Emer, thank you so much. It's been lovely to work with you on this section. And compliments for your wonderful Donegal accent as well. I think it shines as well. And we're going to hand it back over to Brona and Laureen. Thank you so much.
Thanks.